Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are considering the Dharma, Lakshana, Avastha, Parinama, and we try to understand it through the example of a pot, cloth, water, milk, etc. In the Parinama Vada of Sankhya, there are two kinds of parinamas. One is Samudra phenavata, like ocean gets bubbles, foam, waves. These modifications appear and disappear. Bubbles come up, bubbles go off. So as a foam comes up, foam goes off, wave comes up, waves goes back. So that is the parinama, where substance is not really changing. And metaphysical parinamas such as mahat to ahankar, ahankar to tanmatra, tanmatra to panchamahabhutas, these transformations are also similarly of that kind. Like ocean gets bubbles and bubbles go back to ocean. Ocean gets waves and waves go back to ocean. Similarly, these principles can come out and go back. And therefore, they are Samudra phenavata. Another parinama is Dugdhadahivata. Dugdhadahivata means Dugdham, milk. Milk becoming curds. So, when the milk becomes curds, there is no way for curds to go back to milk. While in the case of the former one, waves can become ocean, go back to ocean, bubbles can go back to ocean, foam can go back to ocean, but the curds cannot go back to milk. So, that is Dugdhadavat Parinama. The Ghata Parinama. The Ghata comes from Mrittika and Ghata can go back to Mrittika. Although it will not be the same because it has been baked. So also the cotton can become cloth material, but the cloth cannot go back to cotton once again. So, because of so many processes which are involved in weaving, spinning to turn out cloth material. So, there are characteristic changes in case of Dugdhadadi Parinama, and then Tantu Pata Parinama, Mrittika Ghata Parinama. And that is what we are discussing. This phenomenal universe, the world, physical world, cannot be easily going back to the causal matter. Like the water can become ice, but ice can become water. Water can become vapor, and vapor can be coming back to water. So there are certain parinamas where the substance is not changed and the substance is only modified in manifestation, whereas in certain places the substance itself changes. So in the phenomenal creation we have such things. A wood can turn out a table and chair, but the chair and table cannot go back to tree. That is far-fetched. Because the wood in furniture is processed, and therefore a furniture cannot go back to tree form, however it comes from tree form. So these are the parinamas in phenomenal world. This is how the case is. The furniture can ultimately become ash, but then ash will not become wood once again. That is how the changes take place. There are two kinds of changes. But then these changes are said to be again of Dharma, Lakshana, Avastha, Parinama as per the sutra. Now Patanjali mentions etena Bhutendriyeshu Dharma, Lakshana, Avastha, Parinamaha Vyakhyataha. Etena Bhutendriyeshu. Etena, having Chitta Parinama described and discussed, delineated upon in the form of Nirodha Parinam, Samadhi Parinam and Ekagrata Parinam, Vyuthana Parinam and Vyagrata Parinam and Sarvarthata Parinam. So Chitta has these kinds of changes. Now, they being mentioned, they being described, Patanjali says even Bhutendriya category is also described, having described that. So this is called Dharma Lakshana Avastha Parinama, while there Patanjali mentioned Samadhi, Nirodha Samadhi Ekagrata Parinama. So, now Bhutendriya Parinama, we are going to first consider the Indriya Parinama, the Parinamantara in the indriyas, because indriyas are also made up of sattva, raja, tama gunas, and in the Indriya Parinama we see preponderance of psychological matter. There is a lot of psychological matter, psychological process, psychomental process in Indriya Parinamas. And therefore, it is very much Chitta vijnana when it comes to Indriya Parinama. The senses, the five cognitive senses and cognitive senses, without any agency, are directly connected to the mind. There is no need of agency, they are directly connected to the mind aspects, mental aspects, psychological, psychic aspects. As far as the cognitive organs are concerned, as Sukhendriyas and Dukhendriyas, the Sukha and Dukkha through the senses directly reaches the mind and impacts the mind and influences the mind. They do not need any middle man agency. So the senses and mind are directly connected. Jnana karmendriyas directly take the pains and pleasures to mind. Now, all our Jnanendriyas have a collocation in the face region. And this is a great scheme of archetypal mind. Otherwise, with the in case of karmendriyas, motor organs, we have motor organs in different locations called lower extremities and upper extremities, legs and arms. Then we have somewhere the vacha, the oratory organ, and somewhere we have generative organ and excretory organ. So the five karmendriyas are not in one location, but jnanendriyas are in one location, which is a marvelous scheme of archetypal mind. If they had been placed in various parts of the body, then we can understand the difficulty that we would be having. A lot of inconvenience would be there, lots of problems would be there. Imagine somewhere in our embodiment, eyes, somewhere else at a remote part, your auditory organ, and then somewhere else in the third location you have your olfactory organ, in the fourth location you have your gustatory organ, and in the fifth location you have your tactile organ. So had the five senses been spread in the various parts of the body like motor organs are, then we can understand the inconvenience, difficulties and problems. Therefore, it's a great scheme of the archetypal mind to have these Jnanendriyas in one location, which we call as face part. All these are in the face. And that is really conveniencing our life processes. Then, man can be internally sukhi or dukhi. Man can be internally, human being can be internally in delights or sorrows. And to understand the state of mind, the index is face. We look at the face of a person and try to identify the gesture, mukha mudra, netra kataksha, the glances, and we can understand, looking at the face of a person, whether the person is whether delighted or sorrowed. So also we understand the state of mind by looking at and understanding the movements of the arms and movements of the legs. Angry person would be trampling in his feet. The way a person would walk due to anger, the way the person would walk due to sadness, the way the person would walk because of delight and excitement, it's all noticeable. So also the hand gestures will tell us about the state of the mind of a person. The face will tell us about hand gestures and leg gestures, hand movements and leg movements, arm movements and leg movements will give us some clue as to what is the state of that person, and we are able to read the state of the mind of a person from the Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. So, as we had mentioned earlier, that our Jnanendriyas are Sukhendriyas and Dukhendriyas and Bhogendriyas, we can very well understand that these are not only cognitive organs, these are not only Jnanendriyas, but they are also Sukhendriyas and Dukhendriyas as well as Bhogendriyas. We will be using, and we do use the senses for seeking pleasures, avoiding pains, and indulging in infatuations and delusions. So we use these senses for bhoga, either to have the delusion or not to have it. So also we have used these senses, cognitive senses, to be sad or not to be sad, or to be delightful or not to be delightful. And although they are called Jnanendriyas, their primary function is as Sukhendriyas and Dukhendriyas. And this is a wonderful revelation that Chitta Vijnana of Yoga tells us. So giving pleasures and pains, taking pleasures and pains is by senses. Your senses can also give pain to others, your gestures. It can give pleasures to others, again your gestures. So, more often they are engaged in these acts as Sukhendriya, Dukhendriya, Bhogendriya, either to give Sukha or take Sukha, or to give Dukkha and take Dukkha, or give Bhoga and take Bhoga. So this is their major occupancy when we are in our mundane worldly conditions. The fourth organ, which is called Chaturthendriya, it is Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. They are called Antakarana. Antakarana is the fourth organ. Fourth, apart from Karmendriya, Jnanendriya and Antarendriya. Because you should recall that we have indriyas. Even the body organs are called indriyas. Pachanendriya, Shvasanendriya, Jananendriya, they are all organs. They are all organs, but they are called indriyas. So we have classes of indriyas such as Jnanendriya, Karmendriya, Sharirendriya. And the fourth one is Antakaranam. So that is composed of Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, or sometimes it is referred to as Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. Outside the realm of yoga, there are four Antakaranas. But in yoga, there are only Trivida Antakaranas, Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar. That itself is Chitta. And all these organs, not only Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas, even Sharirendriyas give us pain and pleasure. The state of liver, stomach, colon, bladder also gives us pain and pleasure. There are also Sukhendriyas and Dukhendriyas and Bhogendriyas. And the wise person tells us, sagacious person tells us that a person who is engulfed in Maya, which is the delusion, is just occupied in giving, taking pains and pleasures and delusions. They have enormous gravity on human psyche. For one who is very mundane person, very worldly person. Anyway, the point is, our life is nothing but incoming of pain and pleasure and outgoing of pain and pleasure. We take pain pleasures, we give pain pleasures. And the indriyas are very important agencies in this particular function, or the two functions of giving and taking pain, pleasure, delusion. It is because of the collocation of the indriyas that we are able to have the functions such as Sukhendriya, Dukhendriya, Bhogendriya, that is giving and taking pain, pleasure, delusions. And in such functions, the mind wants to be Sukhashraya. I recall in Sankhya philosophy they say, and Patanjali here is telling us that senses have Dharma, Lakshana, Avastha, parinamas. In their act of taking, giving, pain, pleasure, delusion, there is Dharma, Lakshana, Avastha, parinamas. This is what Patanjali is mentioning, and the Sankhya philosophy postulates it. Now let's try to understand these three parinamas with reference to senses. As an illustration, let us take Dugdhadahivata. Dugdhadahivata means visual organ. Indriya, the vision organ, the eyes. The object of visual organs are rupa and ranga, form and color. These are the objects of visual organ. Some form or the color or combination of form and color. Now these objects are tejasa. Because they are visual organs, they are of the nature of tejas, luminosity. That's why the eyes cannot have its objects in darkness. There must be illumination. And that's why the objects are bright for the senses, for the eyes, for the visual organ. And with the object at sight and with the visual organ, man gets the knowledge of rupa and ranga. Man gets the perception of form and color, the shape and color. Similarly, for Shrotra, auditory organ, their objects are Shravya. Their objects are auditory. So the eyes do the grahanam of rupa, ranga, color and form. Shrotra, the ears, grasp the auditory aspects, auditory dimension of the object at sight. The grahana, olfactory, takes the cognition of gandha, odor. The thwak, the tactile organ, the skin, takes the perception of touch, sensation. And the gustatory organ gives the perception of taste, such as sweet taste, salty taste, bitter taste, pungent taste, sour taste, various tastes. So we should make a table to understand the 14 organs, senses that we speak about in Sankhya and Yoga are 5 cognitive organs, 5 cognitive organs, and the 4 internal organs of mind. So they become 5 plus 5 plus 4, that is 14. So let's try to make a table of these 14 indriyas and try to understand the objects of them, then corresponding indriya and the function. So object, the instrument, that is organ, and their function. So the first one is Shabda as an object. So this will be the left side column. There will be a right side column and there will be a mid column. So left side column will make entries of all Vishayas, objects. Mid column will denote the senses. And the right hand column will mention about the function, which is Jnana Karma. So objects, senses, and function. These are the three captions of the three columns. Now if you put the entries into them, then we will be able to have better crystallization of the table and some aspect of sensology. So in the first column, which is of objects, let us jot down the 14 objects. They are Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, 5. Then Vaktavya, that is oration. And then Prehension, that is give and take. And then Gamanam, that is movement, locomotion. Then Visarga, excretion, and Ananda, bliss. So this is another 5. So these are 10. These will be Jnana Karmendriyas. So these are 10. Now we will consider 11, 12, 13, 14. The 11th is Sukha Dukkha Samvedana, sensation of pain and pleasure. The 12th is a thought process and analysis and the classifications. Or the intellectual processes. The 13th is Aham Bhava, identity, one's identity. And the 14th is the complete mindset, sum of mindset. So these 4 are respectively Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, Chitta. So these are the 14 objects for our 14 senses. So that is the left hand column with 14 entries. Now let's come to mid column and ascertain and jot down the 14 entries. So these are respectively Shrotra, Tvak, Chakshu, Jivha, Ghrana. So these are 5 correlative organs. Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. These are 5 motor organs. So these are 10. And then Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, Chitta. These are the last 4. So these are 14 entries which come in the middle column, which denotes indriyas. Now let's come to the last column of functions, that is Jnana Karma. So these 14 entries will come as I mentioned now. Shravana means audition. Sparshana, touch sensation. Darshana, vision. Rasana or rasana, the taste. And gandha, the odor and smell perception. So we can understand these are 5 Jnanendriyas and their function. Shravana, Darshana, Rasana, Gandha. Then coming to 5 Karmendriyas. Next, Vachana. Vachana is oration. Grahana is prehension. Gamana is locomotion. Visarjana is excretion. Prajanana is progeny. So these are 5 functions of the 5 Karmendriyas. So these are 10 entries in the third column. Then coming to the last four, mananam and samvedanam, is of the mind. Mananam, mental act, samvedanam, sensations. For buddhi, it is jnatavyam, knowability. For ahankar, it is astitvam. It is identity and existence of oneness or one's self. And then the Chitta carries out the functions of chintanam, chinta, samskar and vasana. Collecting all these, chintanam, deliberative and thought process, chinta is worry, anxiety, samskar is subliminal impressions, vasanas are tendencies. So these are the functions of the Chitta. So this will give you some conspicuous understanding of the objects, the senses and their functions. That's why we opted for a table form. Now we are going to consider in the following part Dharma, Lakshana, Avastha, Parinamas in the senses. The 14 senses, 14 indriyas. We are going to ascertain the three parinamas, how these three parinamas occur and what is spoken of as three parinamas in the indriyas, the indriya parinama. So let us try to understand this aspect, how the characteristic, attributary and statary changes are there in senses. We understood them with respect to milk, to curds and butter and clarified butter. Then the sand and pot, cotton and fabric, etc. So let's try to understand these parinamas in the indriyas. But let us embark upon it in our next session. Enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.